Good evening. Welcome to the special Friday night edition of the VisionRoot video blog. I'm your host, Richard Urban, coming to you from Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. Tonight's topic is Hak Ja Han the second coming of Christ? First, I'd like to start with a reading from True Father, Reverend Sun Myung Moon, from Peace Message 17. First, this era, which is gradually bringing us toward the year 3000, will be the era of revolutionary change after the coming of heaven. In this new era, God will no longer be captive to the principles of restoration through indemnity. It will be the time when the King of Kings rules the spiritual and physical worlds with his rightful authority. It will be the era of providential refuge, during which the Earth will return to its original state, with the realm of the Pacific Rim serving as a central axis. People will no longer be beyond the influence of the era of the new way of heaven and of the new heavenly law. Therefore, you must lead a transparent life, with your every action being as clear as crystal. Second, we must accomplish a revolution educating all people on the value of absolute sexual ethics. That is, on the constitution of heaven, with God as its vertical absolute axis. This is the only way to pass on the true good lineage to all humankind. That is a path to achieving God's ideal of true families. From now on, sexual purity, purity of lineage, and the purity of love will be the educational philosophy of the true human race. That's the end of our reading. Again, our topic is Hak Ja Han, the second coming of Christ. For those who may not know, Hak Ja Han was the wife of the late Reverend Sun Myung Moon. And unfortunately, since Reverend Moon has died, a lot of changes have occurred. And now Hak Ja Han is saying that actually Reverend Sun Myung Moon was not the true parent, the second coming of Christ with the true lineage, but she is herself, not Reverend Moon. So, especially for those who are members of the unification movement, that is totally unacceptable, and it doesn't make any sense, and it's not true. And in addition, she's been making all kinds of changes to the scriptures, like Reverend Moon left the 8 great textbooks or scriptures, and now Hak Ja Han says there's only 3 books which are different, and the books have been changed. The new book with the same name, Chun Sung Gyung, has been changed 80%. Those are facts we've talked about before, but specifically tonight, I'd like to talk about Hak Ja Han's recent speech, Searching for the Root of the Universe. First of all, it's a huge insult to use that title. If those of you who are familiar with Reverend Moon's teachings will remember the speech In Search of the Origin of the Universe, given here in Washington, D.C., and in other places, and that speech was given in 1996. I talked about the idea of the true lineage of God and absolutely good sex, and how God wants to restore all humankind back to his original good lineage. And in fact, that's why Jesus came, and that's why Jesus asked Father Moon to carry on his lineage. Well, in this speech by Mrs. Han, Hak Ja Han, she says, or Miss Hak Ja Han, that in fact, it wasn't, the preparation after Jesus wasn't for the second coming of Christ, a man who I understand to be Reverend Sun Myung Moon, but it was actually for her. She says it clearly in this speech. And in fact, she even uses the title, Searching for the Root of the Universe. It can't be a coincidence. Obviously, she's trying to say that she's the root of the universe, not Reverend Sun Myung Moon, who's also known as True Father. So she says that Christian foundation was the means to search for the only begotten daughter of God. God's providence includes a search for the only begotten daughter of God. This daughter of God would come from the Han tribe, interestingly, which of course her name is Hak Ja Han. Later it says in the English translation, so in conclusion, the Kriya produced the second coming of Christ, the only begotten daughter of God. Now here it is incorrectly translated as and the only begotten daughter of God. But if you read this whole thing, there's no mention whatsoever of Reverend Sun Myung Moon, except at the very end it says that True Father, that would be Reverend Moon, has shown us a substantial genuine Udambara flower, meaning Hak Ja Han. That's the only mention of the ministry of True Father. This is an absolute outrage. I don't see how anybody, especially those who say they are unificationists, can even begin to believe this. This is unbelievable. Now, already I've been saying in my previous video, and of course Pastor Hyung Jinim and those who are from the Unification Sanctuary, Pastor Hyung Jin Moon, have been saying clearly that Hak Ja Han has completely left her position, that she was hiding all along this idea that she's the Messiah and Reverend Moon is not, in a short. So this is absolutely just incredibly wrong, and it's incredibly heretical. How could you do this? She erased the legacy of Father, even using the same kind of words as Father, True Father, Reverend Simon Moon uses, switching around the meaning to that she's of the original lineage. This is so outrageous. So I'd like to know how anyone in the unification movement can believe this. So my conclusion is, one, they don't know, or they don't want to know, or they're extremely foolish. And why doesn't, I see there's a translation now, but I haven't seen any memo or anything, not memo, any translation from this. This is an incredibly important speech. And the same thing happened even last year. No news about the July 1st speech. It's like, oh my gosh, don't tell anybody about that. Everybody will leave. Well, yes, leave now, quick, before everything collapses even further. I mean, this is just so incredible. I mean, it's just crazy. So, I will go ahead and put this up on my site, VisionRoot.org, which you'll find at the end of this video. So you will be able to find it there so you can read it yourself. And I just think, every unificationist has to know about this and has to really awaken themselves and has to be aware. You can look at my other videos, but read the words that Hak Ja Han said, and also definitely tune in to the sermons of Pastor Hyung Jin Moon. And of course, read the 8 textbooks that Reverend Moon said. So let's stop denying reality and step into reality. Hello? Hak Ja Han has, sadly, terribly, is decimating the work of God. Do you believe that Reverend Moon brought the great work about absolutely good sex, about the true love, life, and lineage? Hello, that's not Hak Ja Han. And she never talks about absolutely good sex. And even now, using the same name where Father Moon talked about absolutely good sex and saying it's her. She doesn't teach about absolutely good sex. She told Pastor Hyung Moon to stop talking about it. Well, it's pretty apparent why. Because she doesn't believe in the salvific effect of having a blessed relationship with your husband, with her husband, with your husband as a blessed family. So, and her husband wasn't just any husband. He was the one that Jesus ordained and anointed as the second coming of Christ, not Hak Ja Han, who was to be the bride of Christ. Hello, anybody home? So this is just an absolute outrage. I have to come on this Friday evening to say, and so please awaken, my friends, my brothers and sisters, if you're in the Family Federation Unification Movement, awaken to what is going on. How can you ignore this? If you really believe this, I'd really like to see you defend it. Hello, go ahead. I mean, it is so crazy. So I am Richard Urban. I'm reporting to you this evening on the special Friday evening edition from Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. Please be blessed, awaken into freedom, arise. Thank you, and good night.